Gender-based violence has been described as a pandemic in South Africa. Community activists, social workers and NGOs are calling out political parties for not prioritizing the safety of women in the country.
As a mental health practitioner working with women and children on a daily basis who are exposed to and victim to GBV and IPV, I strongly believe that we can no longer attach ourselves to anything that is said or done by any politician leading up to the upcoming election. As a woman in this country, I believe all it has done for us in the past is created a false sense of hope and a belief in a system that continues to dismally fail us as women and children. So whilst politicians are finding their way out of the woodwork and into the fighting arena, civil society, NGOs, organizations that exist within communities, community workers, activists, we have been fighting the good fight for long enough.
In 2018, a presidential summit on GBV was held. In 2019, Parliament was called to a joint sitting on the topic. That same year, 1.6 billion rand was allocated for the implementation of an emergency action plan on GBV and femicide. In 2020, the National Strategic Plan, NSP, was adopted by government, a program to end the scourge. This was aimed at preventing GBVF and strengthening the criminal justice system's response to it. In 2023, 3 pieces of legislation, the Criminal Law, Sexual Offences and Related Matters Amendment Bill, the Criminal and Related Matters Amendment Bill, and the Domestic Violence Amendment Bill were signed into law. But activists are concerned that political parties are not saying enough about the topic, especially the NSP, in their election manifestos.
It's a travesty, really, that all of them, without fail, did not even talk to that document, right? They mention gender-based violence in passing. They mention it as they, think that that's something that we want to hear, but they've never given it priorities.
The newly elected government officials should prioritize gender-based violence. We have the best Domestic Violence Act as well as the National Strategic Plan. However, we do not see any structural changes on the ground. Austerity measures should not reach gender-based violence. Our plans and Domestic Violence Act, the NSP, as well as the Domestic Violence Act and its amendments needs to be resourced.
Despite having what has been described as some of the best legislation globally, activists point out deficiencies.
In my opinion, the biggest deficiency of all would be a lack of consistency. Over-relying on certain days in the year, forgetting that this is a pandemic that occurs on a daily basis without taking any breaks.
I think leading up to the elections, it's sad because I would have wanted to see much more solutions about how we're going to combat this or how we're going to start combating this. There's all of these conversations happening. There's all of these conferences happening. Still very little being done.
Madumise and Warner want to remind the female population that they are in the majority in South Africa and make up over 55% of registered voters.
Demand accountability from day one when this new government comes into being. And we have agreed that we are going to have a minimum demands that we put to the government once it's established. And we are not going to walk away from those demands because they need to stay true to what they've been saying all along. And so for us to push the agenda and to push the needle is going to require that we become vociferous in our approach, and we hold the politicians their feet to the fire on a daily basis.
We really desire is not anything that the spoken word is going to achieve. What we desire is a real and a tangible change. And I think as South Africans, we finally understand that and the importance of our vote this time.
Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.